What I think would be really interesting to talk about is where all you guys started in the first place. You are all quite young, but you started somewhere. How did you have your first break into the music industry? How did you get into it? We start with you.
So mine was an internship at Warner Music, but even before that, the way I got my first opportunity was by setting up a music blog. It got quite a lot of traction online over a short period of time. We got nominated for some awards at a record of the day, which is quite a respected company. And off the back of that, I was interviewing musicians that were signed to major labels. I went into Warner Music one day to interview an artist, just made myself known. Met my future boss at the time, asked him if there were any jobs going, exchanged emails, and within a week I was an intern at Warner Music and very forward.
What made you start the blog?
It was passion more than anything. I never saw it as like an entry level into music. At the time I was working for Camden Council, so doing business rates, which couldn't be any more detached from music. Music was always a hobby of mine. I always used to find things about music to share with friends, and I used to invite people around to play music, CDs and stuff, share CDs. So it was a hobby, and then it sort of started to get momentum, and I was like, hold on a second, maybe I can actually make a career out of this. Because at the time, I think a lot of people just, when you're at a certain age, you just do a job for the sake of doing a job. That's what I was doing at the time. Because I was out of school, decided not to go to university. There's nothing that I felt like I was fully focused on. Took the job at the council to pay for holidays and pay for whatever I wanted to buy. And then music I sort of stumbled across music via my passion.
So it's interesting. So you're not necessarily, your first job isn't necessarily in the music industry. You were kind of pursuing that alongside a job.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just because the age I was, I didn't have the clarity as to what I wanted to do for a career. Like I said, I didn't go to university, so I didn't have like a set path that I was going to follow. So it's almost like I had to sort of test the waters on various things. I was a football coach, because football was my main passion, and then music, I never really thought about a career in it. So I set up the blog, so I was very used to the internet, on social media and stuff. And like I said, I found it as like an avenue to share music, so like a logical thing to do. And then by default, career started to go down that path, but it wasn't until I tried various things that I realised that's what I wanted to do.
And did you want to be a manager?
Yeah, I think over the period of like 5 years working in companies, I've realised what my traits are and what my skill set is and where it's best applicable. I learned a lot where I was working, and I'm able to apply it to what I do today, and I feel like, again, I naturally have just gone down this path through the experiences.
Okay, we'll move on to Shakira then. How did you get started?
I just used to love going to gigs and shows and stuff. I didn't know it was a job in music. Because no one ever told me in school. Obviously I knew it was music, but I didn't think I could anyway. So I would just go to see shows. I was really slow to like the internet and like Facebook and MySpace. I really enjoyed the live experience. I'd go queue up to see a show. I love seeing live music. And I remember when dubstep was just coming out at the time, because I'm from South London, it was coming from that area. That was like all I wanted to listen to. I just wanted to go to the DMZ, those early raves and stuff like that. I just wanted to experience the music. And then I used to go to Brit school. I didn't do music in Brit school. And a lot of my friends did. And then around the same time, Malak from school came to be, who's now a singer. We used to go out raving together all the time. And then I was always showing her new music before it became a thing. And then she must have shown it to the boss who was the radio station for FM. And then he was like, oh, who's showing you the stuff? And then she told him it was me, so him being a businessman, I just rang me up. But I was interning at Excel for a couple of weeks after that. So yeah, just the live, it's just like trying to be in the scene.
Yeah. And so for you, it was about your passion again, wasn't it? So you were doing something which you absolutely loved and enjoyed, and then from that, you became a career in A&R.
Yeah.
Eventually, and you kind of obviously have an eye for certain talent as well.
Yeah, but it wasn't more like I want to have a career in the music industry. It was more like I just can't really do anything. I don't want to do anything else. I think that's a job. It just happened quite naturally.
Yeah. So what were you studying at Bristol then?
I was studying like radio and like media and stuff like that. But I wanted to do photography.
So what's interesting, you were studying that and you ended up working for a radio, so do you think it was useful to study that course at that point in time to get you kind of started in this industry?
I guess so. I mean, I think it's important if you're not academic, or maybe you are, but you still have a creative flair, like you have to express it somehow. So I guess even if it's in art or radio, like it's a way of just letting it out. So I guess radio did in a way. It was more like technical. So.
Yeah. We move over to Jay. How did you get started?
Music was definitely something I was for music and having friends I was always around, so like in school, coming from East London and like growing up in the time that like grime was like at its peak, like around 2004 and stuff. I was always around these people. I was always like rapping in the playground or just everybody had lyrics, everybody was always writing. So as well as playing football, because that was the main thing I was doing. I was always trying to play football because my older brother was a footballer. So I was just trying to do the same thing. But eventually, as time went on, I kept having this interest in music. I ended up playing for my church. And then after that, I got to a point where I was about to go to university and I could pick whether I continue playing football or go to school. So I studied music. So I eventually decided to just go to university, take on music. And I don't know why I decided to study music. I just guess it was the only thing I cared about at the time. So I was thinking I could probably take whatever I can from university and just apply it to like what I'm doing with myself. And as time went on, I guess how I kind of just got into doing what I do to get to where I am today. It was just a lot of like getting to know people because like I think university for me created a platform for me to network with people. I went to radio school where like people study different courses, from like film to broadcasting to graphic design. So there were people from different like categories of art or creativity. So that allowed me to create like a network within my own, area to do what I wanted to do. So that kind of helped me have a sense of direction of who I would need and the type of people I want around me to create the vision I want to get to where I want to be. Because like, let's be real, man, all of us want to do this thing, but we don't know where we want to go. So like I didn't know where I wanted to be. I didn't know what it would take to do this. So I was like, I'm gonna have to meet people around me because Los Angeles at the time wasn't like I didn't have the most money. Like university knows, oh man, we wanted like splash on stuff that we like we don't have the money for that. So it was all about just kind of creating a network around me and just learning as much as I can from people. And like just like Shakira, I used to go to a lot of events and like live shows and just just try and build out, be out there as much as possible because no one gave me anything I have now. It's everything that I'm just like built around me and things just happen organically and I just kept going. I just kept going at it now. I'm still learning to this day, man, and still trying to continue to build a network because that is something that's kind of kept me afloat on top of a lot of things. So that's kind of how I got into doing what I do.
Did you write from an early age?
Yeah, so I was always writing songs, but I never had the equipment to record anything. I was just writing, I enjoyed writing, and I just used to play for my church. So that's the only thing I could do at the time. I was very limited, but I wouldn't even say that's limited. I still enjoyed it, so I just did what I could, what I had, but to the best of my ability, until I had enough, money or opportunity to like upgrade on something like had more to like what I already have. So yeah, I was always writing. So, and that just came from a passion of just writing in general. Like I went to school, so I used to love English as well. But aside from that, I just like writing. I just enjoy it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, how did your career start?
Yeah, mine started a little bit differently in the sense that, so I always knew that I wanted to work in music, but I always knew that I wanted to work behind the scenes. I think like everybody always had the dream that maybe I'd be like in a band or something, but at the same time, you have to recognize your weaknesses. So like, I knew that sucked, so I couldn't do that. So I knew that it had to be something else, but I didn't know all the different kind of jobs that were out there. So my kind of break, if you want to call it that, was I met up with this group called Black Eyed Peas, who are obviously huge now, which sounds like, how did you do that? But back then they were playing like the Jazz Cafe, and they were just about to break. And I went to that show, and I met up with the manager, and I was just trying to find a way in, as opposed to coming at him like a fan. So I was saying, like, what can I help you guys with, blah, blah, blah. And then long story short, he asked me, he was saying like, oh, maybe we might do like a fan club, right? So that was not my dream job. I was like, man, this is corny or whatever. So, but I wanted to do it. So I was like, yeah, cool, this sounds great. So I showed him all my enthusiasm. And that was, like, long story short, that's how it started. That's how the process started. They invited me in. They invited me like into their hotel to have meetings and talk about this. And that thing never actually amounted to anything. But from there, it was about maintaining the contact with those guys, because I knew that I had to just somehow keep showing up at their shows, or keep being involved with them, because I knew that would help me get somewhere else. And then, yeah, long story short, that lasted a long time. This was a long process over like 7 years or something like that, where I did random stuff like websites that were horrible. I did like graphics, like anything that I felt like I could offer them. I would say like, yeah, you're good, I'm really good. And I would suck. But they discovered later, and the point is I was already in there, so I was already in that position. And yeah, and then I established a relationship with them, and then from there, kind of a bunch of other things happened. But it's the same. It's been the same process as that, like constantly. That's what I would say. And I'm still doing that same process with them.
Did you always want to be in the music industry?
Yeah.
You always knew?
Yeah, I was new. But like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I didn't know. Now I'm in Asia, which fits my personality pretty well, I think. But it doesn't. Like, I didn't know that existed at that point.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about the actual roles a bit later, but I think it's important that we've all had to do things that we might not have wanted to have done. You can't just walk into your dream job. You end up doing stuff which might be a bit mundane, but as long as you do it passionately and in a dedicated way, as if you were doing your dream job, then other doors will open for you, because people realise if you work hard, then people will get the other opportunities. Okay, I want to move on a little bit now and just talk about the music industry in general. Firstly, can we just talk about this is kind of a general thing, what qualities do you think are required in a person to work in the music industry? Who should start with?
I mean, with me being an artist, as time went by, I realized that I just needed to be able to offer more than just making music. So I kind of just started, I also have an interest in obviously I produce as well as just write songs, I produce as well. So I teach myself how to produce off my Windows laptop now, maybe 3 weeks or something. So I taught myself how to produce, just watch tutorials. I always had to make sure I always had something as well as just make a rap and just write. I was I want to be able to be in scenarios that just don't limit me, or I just assigned to one thing that I can offer. So I definitely started looking into as another producer, and also get into videography and just try to apply my creativity not just to music but to visuals also, as well as photography or film. So I've worked on short films in the past as well, and I wouldn't sound like best director or anything, but it's something I want to just get into as well as just producing, because at the end of the day it's all a creative process, and if you can channel your creativity to different fields of work, then that always benefits you in the long run. And no man, if you bring creative opportunity that just puts into time, and you never know what you can get with that. So that's definitely one thing for me, just having that extra
versatility and be able to kind of do lots of things. So what you say, what qualities of one person?
First and foremost, passion, I think, because it's not an easy industry to work in. There's no guarantee on salary. It's a slog at the best of times. You have to work for free sometimes. You have to be to work hard long hours, you know, you go to shows in the evening, working all day, so you really have to have a passion to be able to do that. It's by no means easy. It may sound very glamorous, but it's very hard. And you know, it's taken me the best part of 5 years to get to where I am, and I've almost taken 2 steps backwards in terms of, you know, my salary, because I'm taking a risk and setting up my own business. But you know, I have to do it because I'm passionate, and if I didn't have that passion, then I could just be sitting in a boring job, you know, punching the numbers into a spreadsheet. I think if you really want to achieve what you really set out to do, you have to be passionate. Patience as well, like I said, it's 5 years and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But I'm prepared to put in the hours and the days and the weeks and the months. So passion and patience. What else? Persistence as well. You have to be persistent, just be out there, make yourself known, never give up. An opportunity will come eventually. Just keep working hard and be persistent. Like Mike was saying, like everyone said, basically, you just got to be out there, you've got to make yourself heard, make yourself known, keep learning, be persistent. 3 P's. Don't put that in the syllabus.
Yeah, it's kind of true what you were saying, like, about recognising your strengths and weaknesses. Because I think the music industry as a whole, you get so many different types of personalities. Like, I'm really bad at organising myself and like getting things on time. That's something I'm rubbish at. I'm more like focused on like making stuff happen or like trying to find the real thing. Where some people love deadlines and they're better at being like a product manager or like a person bugging people to get stuff done in the label. Whereas I'm more creative, like my head's always thinking, oh, how can I make this? Or what's this going to look like? So yeah, like it depends. Obviously you have to be like passionate, like you say, about music, like what you do, but I think it depends on what kind of person you are as well, because I think there's a role for everything. So
I think that comes with experience as well, doesn't it? Like, you try different things, you ultimately realise like the best suited.
I mean, I think they've said everything pretty much, but I think it is, yeah, you gotta figure out what type of personality you are and what job matches up to that. And I think it's just, again, it's coming back to what Shakira was saying, what I was saying before, like, you have to realize that if you're trying to be an artist, I think you know deep down if you're good enough or if you're not good enough, and if you're not good enough, it's cool, like let it go and try and do something else in that industry. It doesn't mean that it's like the end of the world, like there's so many other things you can do. And things can also come full circle, so you can like you can end up working with somebody and maybe putting something out at some point later when you're in a position to do that, you know. So it's that, and then it's persistent. It's what they said. We don't want to repeat it again for everybody, but like it's that you have to really want what you want. And it takes a lot of time as well. But my mom is sitting over there. She knows I never text her back. So I'm like always out and doing stuff. So it's really like you have to really want it. So.
And do you think it's different working in the music industry to working in another industry?
Well, it's similar to some other creative industries, I think, but other normal jobs like 9 to 5s, yeah, like you can switch off. Like I don't switch off as far as being paid. I don't switch off, which is probably the most horrible thing ever. Because I'm always like nervously looking at my phone because if I get something to get back against something happen, it's stressful. But now it's kind of limitations. Like it's kind of used to it.
I think that's an interesting point, like you kind of having to be there 24/7. Because that's the case in my world. Would you all say that you're pretty much looking at your emails a lot?
especially when you work with people in different time zones, like some of my clients from Australia and America, so it's like, boy, like the time everyone's clocking off, my stuff started, and it's just, you know, so it's really important that you have time for yourself to go gym or do whatever you need to do with your life. You can just revolve around your emails, and sometimes that's not why you want to get into this job, to sit on your emails. It's important to have like a passion and then have hobbies.
And not to have a work life balance.
Yeah.
But it is a lifestyle at the end of the day. Combine into a culture and a lifestyle rather than a job. So
You have to be made up there to work otherwise. It takes too much time.
Yeah.